It has been a very positive budget, especially for people who own houses. It has also been positive for people from the middle class and for the salaried class people. The most important change I feel has been on capital gains from the sale of house property. This relates to section 54 of the Income Tax Act. It's until now, suppose you had held a house for 2 years and then sold it. After 2 years, you would be entitled to long-term capital gains. You could reinvest this money, whatever long-term capital gains you had made could be reinvested, and you would not have to pay any tax on it. The rule until now, however, was that you sold one house and you had to reinvest the entire capital gains in one house. So now the finance minister has relaxed the rules. You can sell one house and the long-term capital gains from it can be reinvested in up to 2 houses. However, your long-term capital gains must be limited to up to 2 crore. And another point to remember is that this benefit can be availed by you only once in a lifetime. Another change pertains to the taxation of notional rent. This relates to section 23 of the Income Tax Act. Now, until now, if you had 2 houses, you could declare one of them as self-occupied. The other one, even if it was lying empty, you had to calculate a notional rent on that house and pay tax on it. Now, you can treat 2 houses as self-occupied, and hereafter, only people who have 3 houses will have to pay a tax on the 3rd house. You can treat 2 of your houses as self-occupied. On the 3rd one, if it is occupied, you calculate the rental income, add it to the rest of your income, and it will be taxed at your slab rate. Otherwise, you calculate the notional income from that house and pay tax on it. So that is all this really means good news for house owners within the country. Now, there is also some good news for people earning interest income from bank and post office deposits, which virtually includes all of us. Earlier, banks would start deducting TDS on your interest income the moment it exceeded 10,000 rupees. Now, this limit has been raised to 40,000 rupees. Now, this will not have any tax benefit as such. It is not as if you will pay lesser taxes, but what it means is that you will have fewer compliances, you will have to do less paperwork. Earlier, people would have to fill in form 15G and 15H, informing the bank that they had no taxable income and hence TDS should not be deducted on their interest income. Now, banks will start deducting TDS only after interest income from your deposits exceeds 40,000 rupees. So, lesser hassles for people earning interest income. Another big change relates to section 87 of the Income Tax Act. Now, all of us have enjoy a basic exemption on our income up to 2.5 lakh. Then the government said that let us extend it to up to 3.5 lakh. So people who had an income of up to 3.5 lakh would get a tax rebate of 2,500 rupees. I repeat, it is a tax rebate of 2,500. Now this threshold has been revised from 3.5 lakh to 5 lakh. Now suppose you have an income of 5 lakh, you deduct the basic exemption limit of 2.5 lakh and the taxable income then is 2.5 lakh rupees. On that, at the rate of 5%, your tax liability would be 12,500. Now this entire amount will not be taxable. The important point to note here is that your net income, that is your gross income less all your deductions, should be up to 5 lakh and you enjoy a full rebate. Also, another important point to note is that the tax slabs per se have not changed. They remain the same. The next change is on TDS threshold on rent. This has been hiked from 1,80,000 to 2,40,000 in a year. It pertains to section 194I of the Income Tax Act. Now, suppose that you pay rent to your landlord. Earlier, if it exceeded 1,80,000 in a year, you had to deduct TDS at the rate of 10%, and then you paid the rest of and deposit that amount. Now this amount has been hiked from 1,80,000, it goes up to 2,40,000 rupees. In other words, your monthly rental has to exceed 20,000. Only then will you have to deduct TDS on the rent that you pay to your landlord. Now, another important change pertains to the standard deduction. The standard deduction was introduced in the 2018 budget. Earlier, there was a medical reimbursement, and there was a travel allowance. There was a travel benefit and there was a medical benefit. In the last budget, in the budget of 2018, the government did away with both these benefits, travel allowance and medical allowance, and instead it introduced a standard deduction of 40,000, which means that you do not have to produce any paper bills, etc. You straight away got a deduction of 40,000. Now this benefit is enjoyed both by people having a salaried income and by people having a pension income. The finance minister in this budget has hiked the standard deduction from 40,000 to 50,000 rupees, which means that the standard deduction goes up by 10,000 rupees. So if you're in the tax bracket of 30%, you get an extra benefit of 3,000 rupees. If you are in the tax bracket of 20%, you get an extra benefit of 2,000 rupees, and so on. So these were some of the major changes that that the finance minister introduced. Most of them will put additional money in your pocket. We hope that you will invest this amount sensibly, but of course, even if you spend it, that will boost consumption in the economy, and it will all be for the good of the country. Thank you so much.